Hi guys, how are you doing? Welcome to lesson number 14 of the 1000 English Collocations course. I am Teacher Nathalia Harchak, and today we are here to talk about academic English. Before we start our lesson, I would like to ask you a few questions. How comfortable do you feel when you have to write a text, such as an email, maybe your resume, a college paper? Do you feel okay with that? Do you know how to use punctuation? Do you know how to organize your ideas in a logical order before you start writing an outline for a specific text? So, something really important to mention is if you want to master English, you need to learn 4 different skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Okay, some people are very good at listening and speaking and maybe reading, but not writing. Writing is one of the hardest skills people have to master in order to say that they are completely fluent in a language. Okay, and if you catch yourself using translating tools, artificial intelligence tools to write for you, then you really need to watch this lesson, because this is not okay. You know, you cannot have machines doing the work for you, because in real life, that's not how it works. You need to do the work for yourself, okay? So maybe this lesson will not be the most fun lesson you will find in this course, but it's certainly one of the most important ones, because I really need to make sure you know how to write in English. Okay, I don't want you to feel like you're lost, that you're not capable of doing this, because we have the tools I have the tools to help you. Okay, so but you need to want to help yourself. And if you have any questions of any kind that is not answered in this video, please contact me in private and I will be very happy to help you. Okay, well, this lesson was divided into 7 sections. The last section I will not teach you here in this video. You will need to contact me in private so you can get a copy of a very important document that will help you understand what you need to do to write a very effective text. Okay, so this is based on college papers, but you can actually use those rules, those steps to write pretty much any kind of text you want. All right? So the first section of this lesson will focus on listening and reading, okay? So I would like you to do me a favor. As usual, I want you to take a look at the 3 pictures on the screen and try to tell yourself what's happening here. Try to describe the pictures as much as you can, all right? And then try to connect all 3 pictures to tell yourself a story. If you are one of my private students, I will ask you what kind of story you came up with when I see you next. So pause the video for a second and then tell yourself this story. All right, you're back. Okay, so now I will read this text and I want you to close your eyes or just look away from the screen because I want to make sure you test your listening. Test your listening comprehension. Okay, if you read the text, it's gonna get too easy for you. And then I will ask you again to rewind the video and read the text as I read it, because this way you will be able to understand the text a little better. Okay, are you ready? All right. Before you begin writing a paper, it's a good idea to make an outline of the main points you plan to present. The next step is to gather evidence to support your claims. Since your work won't be credible if you propose a theory or try to challenge or refute a theory, that means argue against an existing theory, without some proof. If your paper is going to touch on several issues, then you will need to be specially organized. You can draw a distinction between topics that are different or draw parallels between examples that are similar. Another way to organize your ideas is to show how they fall into different categories. After making your outline and gathering the supporting evidence you will use to make your case, you can write a first draft in which you go into detail on the topic. Then, you revise the paper until finishing with the final draft. Let's say you were carrying out a study on market trends in developing countries. You can analyze the key factors that are influencing the economy, showing how local politics play a role or part in shaping the country's financial future. Including some specific items that are perfect examples and clear illustrations of your ideas will help prove your points. At the end of your paper, you should briefly summarize the material you presented and draw conclusions based on your research. The end of the article is also a good place to raise questions for further study. So how did you do? Was it okay for you to just listen to me reading this text? Or do you need to actually read the text and listen to my reading again? If you need it, it's okay. It's completely normal to not understand 100% of a text when you just listen to it. Okay? So, I would like you to actually take the time to do that right now before you move on to the second section of the lesson. Now that you finished the first part of the lesson, we're going to focus on the meaning and form of the keywords from the text. So the first one I need you to know is academic paper, which is a written document where you explain your research and ideas about a topic. I remember doing those when I was in high school, and obviously in college I had to write a lot of academic papers, so that was not an easy task. And then I wrote an outline. So basically an outline was a list of the most important points I wanted to talk about, and those points were organized in a logical order before I started writing my first draft. Okay, a draft is basically a rough copy of what you want to talk about. It's not the final version, it's the first version, maybe the second, third version, but it's not the final version, okay? And rough means not refined, okay? It's not a refined text. Main points, the most important topics, gather evidence. So I actually have the word gather here separately to show you that it means to collect. So you need to collect information to prove that your idea is right, okay? Support your claims. So if you use the word support, this means to back up, to reinforce or sustain your claims. Your claims are basically the things you say, all right? So this means to show evidence that proves that what you're saying is right. Propose a theory. So to propose means to suggest, okay? Propose a theory. Suggest a new idea or explanation about how something works. Challenge a theory. To question or argue against an existing idea to test its validity. Okay, so imagine if I say, sugar is good for you. What? You know, like, I don't think so. But you're going to start asking questions. You're going to challenge what I said because you know that sugar isn't good for you, right? But basically, you're going to start asking questions and arguing against what I just said. And then that's what I mean by challenge a theory. Refute a theory. Refute is to prove that a hypothesis is wrong. So if you refute a theory, you're going to try to find evidence to support your opinion, okay? And then if you show it to me and I say, oh yeah, I think you're right, then you proved that your point was right, your hypothesis was right, and I was wrong. Does it make sense? So something important to know is the word credible, believable or trustworthy. So some people say things, but they don't have any proof. So this means that what they're saying is not credible. It's hard to believe. It's not believable. Okay? And I've already told you about the word propose. Claim, a statement or idea that someone says that is true, which needs proof or evidence. So it's basically your opinion. Proof, evidence or information that shows something is true. Okay. So now let's take a look at this section here. The expression to touch on several issues means to talk about many different topics briefly. Briefly means in a few words, okay? In a short way. Draw a distinction between topics. So distinction means difference. So if you draw a distinction between topics, you try to show people why two things are different. Okay, for example, the pros and cons of something. Draw parallels between examples to show how examples are similar to each other. So here's the opposite. Here you show the similarities, not the differences. To fall into different categories. So categories are basically groups, right? And then, for example, we are studying academic English. Imagine I have like different words here that are all disorganized, okay? Because I don't know, I'm writing an explanatory video sheet like this one. I wrote this. So do you think that this happened magically? No, I had to separate everything by categories. So, for example, I'll show you my text. This is a category of words that were in bold in the text, okay? And these words in brown are words that were not in bold in the original text, but I thought that it would be a good idea for me to explain them to you separately, you know? And then I created this category of words. So as you can see, when I wrote this document, I was categorizing the words to help you understand the text better. Does that make sense? So, but if I had to name these categories, I would name this one as keywords from the original text, expressions, collocations from the original text. And this one would be extra words to support your reading comprehension, okay? Because sometimes people learn expressions, but they don't know what the individual words mean. And that's why I did that. Every time you see a video about this course, actually, so this course called 1000 English Collocations, you will probably notice, if you haven't noticed yet, my documents have a very specific format. And that's on purpose, okay? Because I think about that before I write. Okay? All right. So, issues. Issues means problems or topics that people discuss or need to solve. Okay? So, if you have a problem, you have an issue, basically. Distinction. Difference or separation between things that makes them easily to tell apart. Parallels, similarities, or comparisons between two things that show that they are alike. So, basically, distinction is difference and parallels, similarities. Categories, groups of items, or they are ideas that are organized based on their similarities. All right? Okay, let's take a look at this section here. Supporting evidence. So information, facts, or data that help prove something is true. Make your case, present your argument. First draft, first version of the paper. I told you about this one a few minutes ago. You can also call the first draft a rough draft. So not refined. You can go into detail on a topic. So this means to explain something very clearly with lots of information. Okay, because sometimes people do something very superficially, right? Revise the paper to make improvements to an academic written document. And final draft is a finished, improved version of a written work that is ready to be shared or published. Okay, we have also the phrasal verb carry out a study. So I really love this phrasal verb. It's really useful. So when you talk about research or studies in general, you can use the word conduct or the phrasal verb carry out. Okay, so to conduct research or an investigation to learn more about a specific topic. So if you do that, you're carrying out a research or study. By the way, research is uncountable, okay? There's no such thing as researches. So research. Market trends. So market trends are basically patterns or changes in consumers' behavior. Okay, I'll give you an example. In the past, people didn't used to rely on cell phones to write texts, emails all the time. I don't know, 15 years ago. But nowadays, a lot of people don't even have computers anymore. You know, they realize that they can do a lot of the things they used to do just by using their phones. So this is a different trend, okay? So it's a different type of behavior. And because of that, the market changed. In the past, computers used to be a priority when it came to this type of thing, like writing emails and doing different things, such as I don't know if texting. Texting was a thing back then. Calling people, video calling people. I remember using a computer to do that, and nowadays I don't need a computer to do that, right? So the market has changed over the years, and this means that people started buying products that are different, right? People prefer buying phones nowadays instead of computers. So that's an example of how trends can change, okay? Developing countries, nations that are improving their economy and overall living conditions. So you have probably heard about third world countries. Third world countries are poor countries. And a developing country is a country that is not a first world country, and it's not a third world country. It's improving, okay? It's getting better. The economy is getting better. Key factors are the most important elements or causes that could influence a particular result. Play a role or part. To have an important position that has an impact on a particular situation. So for example, if you play an important role in the company where you work, so you have an important position in specific tasks that you do that maybe other people can't do, okay? To shape a country's economy. So to shape is to give form to something, okay? So to determine the characteristics or development of something. Perfect examples, ideal or excellent instances or representations of something. Clear illustrations means examples or explanations that help clarify a point. And prove your points, provide evidence or arguments that show your opinions are valid. Some of these expressions I think are very obvious and others are not. So if you have any questions, you let me know, all right? And the last section here of our text is this one. Briefly summarize. Okay, I would like you to first pay attention to the word briefly. So this means shortly. Okay, you don't spend a lot of time doing something. And to summarize is, for example, if you have a really long text and say the text has, 20 paragraphs, and you need this text to have 3 paragraphs, then you need to summarize the text. You need to reduce the amount of words used in the text, all right? So summarize. Be careful with the word to resume, okay? Depending on the language you speak as a first language, you may think that the word to resume means to summarize, okay? I will use Brazilian Portuguese as an example. We have the word resumir, okay? So when you look at the word to resume, you may think that that word means resumir, but that's not right, okay? So to resume means to continue something that you were doing before. I'll give an example. I will take vacation in the middle of the year. And after my vacation, I need to resume my classes. So I need to continue teaching those classes that I had been teaching before I took vacation. Does that make sense? So you pause what you're doing, you stop what you're doing, with the intention of coming back later. All right. Another example I usually give people is whenever they are watching TV and they need to pause whatever they are watching, like a movie. Okay, let me pause the TV for a second. And then when the person plays that movie or video again, then that person is resuming the video, the movie. Does it make sense? And that's what to resume means. Be careful with that word. To draw conclusions. So if you draw conclusion, basically you form an opinion or decision based on some specific information. Okay? So every time you write a text, I'm sure you have heard about that. Normally texts need to have an introduction, then there's the body of the text, like you develop the text maybe with like 1 or 2 paragraphs in between the introduction and the conclusion. So the conclusion is when you finish the text and you need to present your opinion or your decision depending on the type of the text. Okay? So introduction, development, and conclusion. Raise questions. To raise questions would be to ask for more information or clarification. Okay? To further study. So further means extra. Continue researching or examining the details of a specific topic. Article, a scholarly piece of writing that presents research or theories, typically peer-reviewed and published in academic journals. Okay, peer. Peer is a person, like for example, if you have a coworker that has the same type of job you have, the same position, you guys make the exact same salary, you have the same tasks to do every day. So you are peers. You are basically the same. But in an academic environment, your peer would be somebody that studies with you, okay, like a classmate. Then peer review. So if I ask somebody to check my text, then I can say that this text was peer reviewed. Okay, somebody gave feedback on my work, basically. All right, before this is published. And okay, academic journals, a periodical publication that contains scholarly research reviewed by experts in the field before publication. So you normally don't hear about this unless you are in college, okay? And normally this type of research is really advanced, okay? So for example, somebody who needs to graduate from a doctoral program would probably have to write academic journals because those type of courses are based on research. All right. Okay. So hopefully you understood the text better. And if you didn't, let me know. All right. So now let's focus on the pronunciation portion of our lesson. I would like you to repeat the words after me. So listen. Outline, outline. Organized order, organized order. Present, present. Gather evidence, gather evidence. Claims, claims. Since, since. Credible, credible. Theory, theory. Challenge, challenge. Refute, refute. Argue against, argue against. Proof, proof. Touch on several issues, touch on several issues. Specially organized, specially organized. Draw a distinction, draw a distinction. Draw parallels, draw parallels. Categories, categories. Gathering, gathering. Argument, argument. Draft, draft. Detail, detail. Improvements, improvements. Carrying out, carrying out. Actually, you can say carrying out, carrying out. Market trends, key factors, economy, politics, shaping, financial future, perfect, briefly summarize, material, draw conclusions, research, article, raise questions. Pay attention to this pronunciation here. Questions, not questions. Many people say questions, it's questions. Raise questions. Further study. Okay, so this section of the lesson is really important. A lot of people don't really pay attention to this section much, but actually, this is one of the most important ones because this is how you learn how to pronounce words better, which means that you're going to improve your speaking. So never ever skip this section of the lesson and always repeat the words after me, even though some people, I'm saying that because some students told me, oh, I think it's a little bit dumb to do that. I feel a little strange. It's okay, you know? Don't do it in front of other people, but do it. Okay? Because after this, you have to record yourself reading the text to show me your pronunciation. And if you don't do that, I'm going to tell you to record the audio again. All right? So don't be lazy. All right, so now we're going to focus on the language in context. Normally, at this point of the lesson, I ask my intermediate students to leave the video. But today, you're not going to do that. Why? Because I prepared a section of the lesson to teach you about how to effectively use punctuation in English. Obviously, I'm going to talk about some basic punctuation rules, but that is extremely important if you are trying to learn how to write texts. And if you are an advanced student, I still would like you to watch the whole thing because even advanced students have trouble writing texts correctly, okay? So you are not excused this time. You have to stay here with me. Deal? All right. So pay attention to my reading. The words in bold, well, the ones in black, they are words that you have already learned from the text. The ones in green are new words, basically additional words, synonyms that you can use to explain basically the same things we have already talked about. And why is this important? Because a lot of people don't learn extra words. They always use the exact same thing over and over again. And when you're writing a text, you need to know lots of synonyms because otherwise your text will be very repetitive, very redundant. And this is something that you only learn if you put time into it. And look at this. I did the work for you. The only thing you need to do is watch the video, okay? And obviously try to learn the new words I am presenting to you. Okay? So listen. Before writing a paper, it's smart to create an outline of your main points. Remember, outline is a list of things. Make sure to collect evidence to back up your claims in your paper. Okay? So to back up means to support your statements, the things you say, your claims. It's important to be credible by providing proof for your ideas. Credible. Remember, if you want people to believe you, you need to show them where you got the information from. You need to get proof. You need to cite your work. Cite. To cite or to provide citation, you basically tell me where you read it, who wrote about it, and if it's a book or basically an academic paper or publication, you need to show me the page, okay? So that's called citation. My paper will touch on or discuss or cover several issues related to education. My dissertation will explore various aspects of education. In my paper, I will delve into numerous issues concerning climate change. Delve into means to explore. Okay, this is a very advanced word. My essay will address a wide range of topics within the health industry. So, essay is a composition, okay, piece of writing. Address is like talk about. A wide range is like basically a lot of topics, a wide range of topics. I will read this one again. My essay will address a wide range of topics within the health industry. Being organized is key when talking about multiple topics. Okay, so to be key is like to be important. I will show a distinction between the pros and cons of renewable energy. Remember, distinction is to show the differences. And pros and cons, this is a very nice expression because if you talk about the pros and cons, you're talking about the differences, right, of something. My essay will draw parallels between the themes of love and friendship. So parallels would be similarities. And love and friendship would be related, right? Sometimes you may not think about love as, when you think about friendship, you think about like, friends, going out, doing something fun, but you have friends because you love them, not necessarily in a romantic way, but you can totally draw parallels between those topics. Okay, so I categorize my research into different groups for clarity. After gathering evidence, I'll present my argument in the paper. I will write a first draft to flesh out my ideas before revising. So to flesh out is like to make it better, to improve, to get more information. Market trends in developing countries are influenced by various factors. Analyzing market trends can give us insights into economic patterns. Insights would be basically a different view, different perspective, opinion about something, okay? The economy is impacted by key factors such as inflation and unemployment. Local politics have a significant role in shaping government policies. Including specific examples will help illustrate my points in the paper. In conclusion, I summarize the main findings of my research. Findings would be like the result of research, okay? Based on my analysis, I drew conclusions about the impact of technology. I raised questions to stimulate further discussion, extra discussion at the end of my presentation. My outline helped me organize my thoughts before writing. Okay, so remember, if you write a list of topics, then that's a way to organize your thoughts, before you start writing. Being organized is crucial when talking about different subjects. The evidence I collected supported my hypothesis about climate change. The final draft of my paper is ready for submission. Remember, submission is when you send something to somebody. For example, you are a student, and if you submit your work to me, you are sending me your homework because you want me to correct it, right? So that's called submission. You need evidence to support your arguments in a paper. It's important to be believable and provide proof for your claims. Remember, be believable is to be credible. I will write a rough draft, a draft that is not refined. Okay, it's not the final version. I will write a rough draft first and then revise it for clarity. Using specific examples will make my points clearer in the paper. In conclusion, I summarize the main points of my research for the audience. So as you can see, some of these sentences are very similar. And as I told you, I was just trying to show you how you could write them in different ways. So I was trying to provide you with some synonyms. Deal? So let's move on to the conversation section. I would like you to listen to all these questions because I will ask you these questions in class. All right? Listen. What's the difference between an essay, a report, and a paper? What is plagiarism and how can you avoid it? What is a thesis statement? What is a topic sentence? What are citations and references? What are body paragraphs? Can you use punctuation effectively? What does proofreading mean? Can anyone publish academic research? Can you explain the difference between an outline and a draft? What steps are involved in writing a first draft or a paper? Why is it important to create an outline before writing a paper? What are some tools you can use to organize your ideas into categories? What is the purpose of gathering evidence in academic writing? How do you ensure that your paper effectively supports your claims? How can proposing a theory without proof affect the credibility of your work? What are the consequences one could face for plagiarizing an academic paper? Why is it crucial to be organized when discussing multiple topics in a paper? What are some strategies for drawing distinctions between different topics? How can parallels between examples enhance the clarity of your arguments? How can drawing conclusions strengthen your argument? How can you effectively revise your paper before submitting the final draft? Why is it beneficial to include specific examples in your writing? What is the purpose of summarizing the material presented in your paper? What are some techniques for writing effective summaries? Why is it important to raise questions for further study at the end of an article? Can you provide an example of drawing a distinction between two topics? How do specific items contribute to proving your points in academic writing? How can you provide clear illustrations of your ideas in academic writing? How do you ensure that your paper's conclusions align with your research findings? Okay, so these are some of the questions that I may ask you during your conversation classes, so get ready for them, okay? All right, so this section of the lesson is extremely important. A lot of you complain about the fact that you don't know how to use punctuation, and then I decided to add this section to this lesson to solve this issue. Of course, these are just some basic punctuation rules, and if you are interested in learning more about this topic, I have some videos that I can send you on the side so you can improve your English in that area. All right? So let's take a look at the use of commas. So if you look at this first column, you will see all the different punctuation marks. And then I'm going to explain to you how you're going to use them. And I basically wrote some examples here to help you visualize how these punctuation marks are used in writing. Okay? So let's see. A comma is used to separate items in a list. For example, apples, oranges, bananas, and pears. So as you can see, there is a comma here before the word and some people may say, well, is it really necessary to use a comma before and? Actually, this is called the Oxford comma. It's actually optional, but some people prefer using it because this indicates you're using commas, the Oxford comma in a more academic piece of writing, okay? I usually use the Oxford comma, so it's up to you. Before conjunctions in compound sentences. Okay, so, well, we have two independent clauses here. So I enjoy reading, so if I read this, you totally understand my point. And I also love hiking, so these are two independent clauses. And when we have conjunctions, you can also call them connectors. Normally, we have a comma before the connector. However, if you have an independent clause and a subordinate clause, then you don't have to use the comma. For example, I enjoy reading and hiking. In that case, I cannot use a comma before and. Why? Because hiking by itself is not an independent clause. Okay, it's a little bit complicated to explain, but that's basically how this works. All right, so we can also use commas after introductory elements like unfortunately, you pause. We missed the bus. But if I tell you, we missed the bus, you totally understand the point. I don't have to say unfortunately. Unfortunately is like my opinion, okay? And it's introducing my sentence here. To set off non-essential clauses. So to set off means to separate, basically, okay? So for example, my brother is on tour. If I tell you that, you will understand what's happening in his life. But if I want to have like extra information added to this sentence, non-essential clauses, this is the case of this one. My brother, who is a musician, by the way, if you didn't know, okay, is on tour. Does it make sense? Now let's talk about periods. So this is called a period. I would like to mention something important. Whenever we talk about emails, if somebody asks me, Natalia, what's your email? I will say nathaliaharchak@gmail.com. In that case, I say dot and not period, okay? But if I'm talking about sentences, then I don't say dot, I say period. So let's see. A period is used to end a statement. For example, she likes apples, period. She doesn't like apples, period. Or to end statements and commands, like please close the door. Okay, so close the door is a command. I'm telling you to do that. Please close the door. After abbreviations, like Inc. means incorporated. So this means that a company is a corporation. Approximately, etc. So I have, as you can see, when I have abbreviations, I must have a period right after that word, okay? Oh, I remember something important. I told you about dots and periods, but when you talk about numbers, then you use the word point, okay? So, if you're talking about a number, you don't say, for example, this costs period $50, 5.5, an example, okay? Semicolon. Okay, semicolon. A semicolon links closely related independent clauses without conjunctions. So, for example, I could say it's late and because of that, we should go home. But if I don't want to say and, I can basically just connect these two independent clauses by using a semicolon. It's not that hard. You just need to remember that they have to be related, okay? A semicolon is also used to separate items in a list with internal commas. For example, he has lived in Paris, France. So Paris is a city in France. So I cannot use a comma here because if I use a comma, the person reading my text may think that France is a city as well, okay? Or Paris is a country. No. So Paris in France, that's a block of information. Then Tokyo in Japan. Okay, so Tokyo is in Japan. So then that's another block of information. And then finally, Berlin, Germany. Okay, so then we have this block of information. Does it make sense? So it's used to separate items in a list with internal commas. Then we have colon. Introduces a list of explanation. I bought the following colon. Bread, milk, and eggs. Look, I use the Oxford comma here. Okay, because it's a list of like 3 items. So, by the way, you normally use the Oxford comma when you have a list of 3 or more items. Okay, if I said I bought the following: bread and milk. In this case, I cannot use a comma before and because I only have 2 items. All right. Before a block quotation. So, okay. Quotation marks. You usually have them whenever you basically repeat something that somebody said and you want to keep the statement in its original form. So imagine somebody says, I won't be joining the meeting today. Okay, and you don't want to change the sentence. And then you can say, oh, she said, I won't be joining the meeting today. But if you want to change the sentence, you could say, she said that she wasn't planning on joining the meeting today. You can change the sentence, but this is called reported speech. Reported speech is another topic that is kind of hard, okay, to explain here. And I would have to record a different lesson, an extra lesson to teach you that. In reported speech, normally we transform like verbs into other tenses. Like, for example, will or won't would be would or wouldn't, or it would be more like this. She said that she wouldn't be joining the meeting today. But we are not going to talk about this right now because it's complicated. I just wanted to let you know that it's totally possible to repeat what somebody said and keep the text in its original form. Actually, this is easier than using reported speech. Reported speech is a very advanced topic, okay? Question mark, this is the easiest one in my opinion. So it ends a direct question. How are you feeling today? Question mark. But some people forget to use question marks when they're writing, okay? Exclamation mark shows excitement or emphasis. That's amazing. So you see? Exclamation mark. By the way, something important. Some people get super excited when they're writing and they use lots and lots of question marks and exclamation marks. This is not good for your writing, okay? So if you're writing an academic paper or if you're writing something formal, please don't ever do that. Only use one question mark or one exclamation mark. Okay? Apostrophe. So an apostrophe is used to indicate possessions. So in English, we normally use that when talking about people. For instance, Maria's book. This means the book that belongs to Maria. We cannot say the book of Maria. Okay? I have a lot of students who speak Spanish, Portuguese, and Italian, and it's very tempting to translate everything word by word, but you cannot do that in English. You need to use the apostrophe and the letter S to indicate possessions, okay? Let's see. Forms, contractions, and some plurals. Okay, so let's see. It's cold outside. It is a contraction of it is, okay? It's. And this happens a lot. Like, for example, don't, do not, don't, didn't, did not, didn't, won't, will not, won't, and so on, okay? Quotation marks encloses direct questions. We talked about this a few minutes ago. So, she said, comma, be careful. Indicates titles or poems, articles, or book chapters. Jane read Cinderella to her kids last night. So, as you can see, Cinderella is the name of the book. And then I enclosed the word Cinderella by using quotation marks. Okay? Parentheses. Encloses additional information. He moved to Spain in 2003 to study. So, in 2003 was just not necessary in the sentence according to the person who was writing, okay? But if you think it's an important piece of information, you could say, he moved to Spain in 2003 to study. So if you think it's important to mention that, you just remove the parentheses. Honestly, I don't use this very often, but if you think it's necessary to do that, you can totally use it, okay? Hyphen joins words in compound expressions like mother-in-law. You need to hyphenate, you need to use hyphens. When you write mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, etc. Numbers like 23, 31, 95, etc. Or in more advanced English, we can use hyphens to separate some words that help us describe a noun. For example, I have a 12-year-old cat. Can I say I have a cat that is 12 years old? I can, totally. I can say I have a cat that is 12 years old. But this is a really long sentence. And then if I want to be more concise, I can basically transform that long sentence into something shorter by using hyphens and using some information to describe basically like the main object of the sentence. In this case, we're talking about the cat, right? So I have a 12-year-old cat. For example, I bought a book the other day and it cost me only $5. It was a great price for a book. I could say I have a $5 book. In this case, a $5 book. $5 book. So $5 is helping me describe how much I paid for the book. Doesn't make sense? But because this block of words basically they work as an adjective, I need to make sure I hyphenate them. It's a little bit advanced for some people, okay? Like, I mean, this grammar, but it's something that you totally should incorporate into your vocabulary because it's a really good thing to know, all right? Then we have dashes. Dashes are basically really long hyphens. That's how I look at them. This is a dash, all right? So this indicates a range or a sudden breaking thought. For example, if I want to say between 1990 and 2000, I can basically just use a long dash here to express that without having to use the word between, okay? If people say, I know, I've seen it. So I know, pause, I've seen it. So I've seen it is like something that I want to say, but there is a breaking thought. You know, I usually say, yeah, I've seen it. You see? So it's a long pause. Sets off information for emphasis. So basically set off is to separate, okay? And then emphasis is like something that makes a certain aspect of the text more noticeable, okay? He gave her what she needed most. What? Space, okay? So basically the sentence here is incomplete, right? And I want to know what this person gave her. He gave her what she needed most. Pause. What? Space. Okay? So, obviously, as I told you, these are just basic punctuation marks. I really would like you to keep working on that. And I actually have a very nice selection of videos that if you're interested in watching them, you can always contact me and you can get a copy of this sheet, okay, and start watching them. All right, so I do have this last section of the lesson. I told you I wouldn't talk about it because it's a little bit too specific. But if you want a nice guide to writing an academic paper, I have like 10 steps that basically I wrote the step-by-step process here to help you understand how you can effectively write a text and feel good about it. Okay, so if you are planning on studying abroad, okay, if you are in college in an English-speaking country, if you're in high school, not just college, but high school in an English-speaking country, or if you have a son or daughter that's going to study abroad, you absolutely need to know about this, okay, so you can help your child. And you're welcome to come and talk to me about it. I'll be glad to give you a copy of this document because it's really important for me to know that you are capable of writing clear, concise, effective texts, okay? I hope that this lesson was informative, that it was helpful. Maybe it was not the most enjoyable topic to talk about because some people really don't like writing. I know that. But as I said, I really wanted to help you with that. All right. So thank you for watching the video and I'll see you in class. Bye bye. Take care.